Welcome everyone. I'm gonna stick into the corner over there because I'm not feeling well. And I don't want any of you to not be feeling well. Although I'm probably poisoning Deanna and Diana over there. But welcome and thank you for coming tonight. There are some people joining us online as well. It's great to see you all in person though. Tonight we are doing our first vendor presentation of our shortlisted vendors. So tonight we are going to hear about Savas Learning and their products that we reviewed. And so we have asked them some questions, but really tonight is for you to get a first-hand look from experts within their company, experts that have used this program to give us more of an insight into the program so that we can then do some final evaluations. Also, as we are, once we finish our 4 presentations this week, we will be having a committee meeting to really talk about what do we want to see in best and finals. We will then have sort of a more complete picture of the 4 different programs. And so we'll decide what do we want to ask the vendors for in our best and final. And then once we get those best and final offers, we'll do our final scoring and selection. So I think your biggest thing tonight is really take down good notes, just like you did when you were evaluating the programs, because they all get mixed up, right? Like right now I'm doing a science adoption as well. So it's all mush in there. So take really good notes, because as you go through the week and you see other products as well, you want to, keep these things in mind. Diana, what I don't know, I haven't said it, but is there any room for questions in this part from committee members?
Yes. You can ask questions, but keep it strictly to like the material and what the curriculum is and those kind of questions. No questions about pricing. If it's questions about the RFP itself, just jot that down and we'll get that to Jackie. She was unable to be here. But we'll make sure that we get those questions answered, but really hold them, your questions to the material that they're going to show.
Yeah, so she told us that. She's so good. She's with us. Hi, Jackie.
Oh.
But
hi.
She did tell us that before, that if you have questions about the actual product and how the product works, just not anything specific to the RFP. All right. Great. Without further ado, we welcome an old friend to us, Jane.
Thank you.
How many of you guys remember Success Maker in there? She doesn't want to be. She doesn't want to be. Jane was our main contact.
I'm not admitting to that.
But she was always there for us whenever we needed her. So it's great to see you. And
Thanks, Heidi. I appreciate it. Thank you for having us today. Hi, Jackie. I feel like we're best friends on email.
We are, for sure. Absolutely.
Finally, oh shoot, I'm not meeting yet. I'm glad I brought some notepads and pens. They are on the table, so it sounds like you guys have to take notes. So please feel free to use those or your own note-taking device. My name is Jane Furbacher, and I'm the account manager for Savas. And some of you may have remembered Pearson. We were Pearson a few years ago, and Pearson sold us off, and now we're Savas. The K-12 division is called Savas. Today we're here to talk about myPerspectives, which is a 6th through 12th grade ELA program. And I have some folks with us today to support your adoption. I have Amber Timms, who is our national ELA specialist, expert of all myPerspectives, and a delight to listen to. So I'm excited to hear her speak today. And we have Michael Lesser in the back, and he's our regional vice president, and he's about to also be part of this adoption. So we're really, really excited. I know I hear a rumor it's been a while since you've adopted some material. So I won't go into the number of years, but we're really excited that you're doing this. So Just a couple things. We are very proud of our myPerspectives program. How many of you are familiar with Ed Reports? Okay, Ed Reports is an independent group that evaluates materials. If you haven't heard of it, I encourage you to Google it. But they evaluate materials, and we are proud to say that we're all green on all the criterion. So take a look at it. I won't spend time on what that means, but it is pretty exciting to score all green on the Ed Reports doc. So take a look. myPerspectives is a program that many districts are using across the United States and especially in Arizona. I'll talk a little bit about which districts are using in Arizona at the end, but just know that it is a widely used program and kids love it. Amber's going to talk to you today about our award-winning platform called Realize. How many of you use digital resources in your classroom? And it's okay if you don't raise your hand, because this program can be done 100% print, 100% digital, or a little bit of a blend. So she's going to talk a little bit about what those resources look like. Does anybody use Google Classroom? Okay, well, for those that maybe be online or that do use Google Classroom, we have an integration with Google Classroom. So, and Amber will talk a little bit about that, and also Canvas. I know that standards are very important to you. I'm an ex-teacher as well, and we must make sure that we're correlated to the Arizona standards. So please be assured that we are. This program is correlated to the Arizona standards as well. We can provide that correlation for you. I really thank Heidi and the purchasing folks for providing the rubric that you did in the RFP. A lot of times districts don't share that with us, and we kind of just guess what a district might be looking for. So by you providing what you're looking for helped us create a presentation for you today. So I thought it was important to copy that rubric. And so somewhere in your pile of menagerie, you have a stapled, filled out rubric. And it's not for you to you know, that we think we're all free. It's just to let you know where we cover some of the things that you guys are looking for in our video. So thank you again for providing that. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I did check. You're right. It's in, so you can tell it.
Okay, all right. I'll save the best one. I don't even know if they care, but we'll talk about it in just a second. Well, I'll talk about it now. So we were giggling because the RFP is a pretty strict process, as y'all know, and you're shaking your heads. And in the RFP, they are requesting AP Spanish. So we sent a video because we didn't want to take time today to talk about AP Spanish, because maybe not everybody teaches it, and I felt like we didn't want to take away from the ELA materials you're looking at. So I did send a short little 14-minute and an 8-minute video on AP Spanish, and that will be sent out for those that are looking at AP Spanish as well. Our program is called Abriendo Paso, and then there's the AP exam workbook, prep book. Okay, last but not least, and then I'm not going to steal Amber's show. You should have some presentation bags in front of you. If folks are online and they didn't get any, I can leave them with Heidi. I can leave them with whoever, and you can request them, or maybe you have a friend in the presentation that can bring it to you. If anybody in the room would like an extra bag, please feel free to take them. I'm driving back to Phoenix today, and I'd like a lesser of a car. So you're welcome to wrap them up as Christmas presents or use them as ladders. I don't know. But please take some extra materials. You also have a couple things in front of you. You have a blue folder, and I like to call that, I'm really going to age myself, the Cliff Notes, or as my daughter would tell me, it's now Spark Notes, Mom. But you can refer to that later. It's just a couple brochures that Amber's going to talk to you about today, and then you can go back and refer to it. But what I really want you to do is put a star or an arrow or a circle around the front cover of that, where there's what is that called? It's a QR. Thank you. I was like ISBN. What is that thing called? A QR code, or there is the website there. That is a customized website that we created for Tucson, and we provided it during the review, and we've added some things to it. There are samples in there. Somebody earlier was asking about novel choices. We have over 1,000 novel choices for you. You can see those novel choices in that website, and I have a little book that I'll pass around here as well at the end of the presentation. The other thing that you have is an overview brochure. That's what this little spiral bound is. It just tells you about the program, but Amber's going to do a better job than the brochure, so you don't even have to open it. And then last but not least, I think that's it. Oh no, my favorite part of the presentation. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been with the company 19 years. So I've watched a lot of presentations, and myPerspectives is one of my all-time favorite programs. I know what I love, but I would love to hear from you. So if you guys would do me a huge favor at the end, if you would just jot down a few things that you really thought was a wow in this program, I'm going to ask you to share out, and I may have some incentives for you for sharing. Any questions before I hand it over to Amber? Okay, Amber, you are on. Thank you so much,
Jane. Thank you. Well, as Jane said, I'm excited to be here today. We are introducing you to the newest edition of myPerspectives today. It is an integrated approach to teaching literacy, and as Jane said, fully aligned to your Arizona standards and designed for different learning experiences. So that fully print, fully digital with universal design features or a blended approach. But really what we want you to see today, that it's very heart and soul, myPerspectives is about engaging your students in thought-provoking text, media, getting them to develop their own perspectives, but also seeing and understanding the perspectives of others. Because in this world, that's more important than ever. We were chatting today earlier about the fact that our students are consuming so much text. In fact, it's unlimited on a daily basis. Print, digital, video, TikTok, right? Social media, it's everywhere. So how can we get our students to become these critical consumers of text and then become effective communicators? Today, we're going to share with you that really starts with conversation. And in the words of one of our authors, Dr. Ernest Morel, he says text is a conversation. It's one that we get to speak back to. It's going to spark that deeper insight. And as literature teachers and coordinators and coaches in this room, you get that. You do a lot of reading. You have a lot of conversations with text. But do our students get it? They're not critical consumers of text for the most part. For them, it's just another assignment. So today, we want to talk about how we can get your students to that place, maybe not exactly where we are as lovers of literature, right? But at least they're critically consuming text. They're talking about it. They're sharing. They're collaborating well beyond your classrooms. So with myPerspectives, we want to show you that gets started right here. At the beginning of the unit, with student-inspired themes and essential questions that really invite your students in to share their own perspectives, to share their own experiences and cultures, leaning into questions like these. But it's also more than just questions. We also want to launch conversations around public art, community connections, photography at the beginning of the unit. And at the end of the unit, it's what they're doing with text. Each unit is backward designed around a real world performance-based assessment aligned to an essential question. But not only that, they have project options, ways for them to really share their new perspectives or maybe their new qualified perspective at the end of the unit. What I want you to do now is reach into your bag, your blue bag, and I want you to pull out your teacher's edition. And Jane has tabbed it for us. So if you will turn to tab one, your teacher's edition is the hardcover. And you're going to be looking at a unit overview. So on the right side of the page, you see something that looks like my screen here. This is our consistent unit design across grades 6 through 12, right? So you'll start in whole class learning with students, teaching, modeling, getting them to grapple with complex text. But then in peer group learning, now we're focusing in on collaboration, speaking and listening, and they're going to collaborate together with brand new text. At the end of the unit, your students have reader's choice, and now they're digging into independent learning. This unit is flexible. You can move units around, you can move text around, you can add in your own text as well. Now that flexibility, it also applies to grouping opportunities throughout the entire unit. If you're focusing in on collaboration, you can still do that during whole class learning with opportunities in the margins to facilitate those kinds of conversations. Now, one of the things we've really focused on in this newest edition is diversity. Diversity of genres, diversity of authors, a more balance of fiction, nonfiction, classic and contemporary for a true multicultural experience for students. Not only that, you're going to see new authorship. We've got Jason Reynolds and Foreman, Magda Pena. We have more nonfiction if you're a David Sedaris fan. And then, of course, we have classics. Maybe you love teaching Kurt Vonnegut or Langston Hughes, everything that you love, but also your students love to be there. But it's also about launching conversations and discussions around poetry slams, visual arts, videos as well. So what I'm going to do now is show you, you're on the very first opening page of the unit, but now we want our students to start taking ownership. So join me in turning one page over in that teacher's edition. Just one page, not a whole tab. And you'll see on the left-hand side of the page, students start with goal 7. They're going to be ranking where they think they land with this particular unit goal. Notice at the bottom, there's a blank goal. They're also going to be setting their own goals for the unit. On the right-hand side of the page, academic vocabulary. So now they're digging into the academic vocabulary related to the writing that they're learning, and they're focusing on vocabulary and discussions and writing pieces. Turn one more page for me. Now we're going to engage them with the mentor text. This serves 2 purposes. First, it models the mode of writing they're learning, and second, it's an engaging text to launch their conversations around the topic. If you turn one more page over, you'll see how they do that. Peer group collaboration, icebreakers, summaries, they're doing quick writes around that essential question, and we're introducing them to an evidence log that we're going to talk more about shortly. So you can see all of this is built for that very first couple of days of the unit to hear their voices in the classroom. But in order for them to be critical consumers of text, they first have to be able to read it, right? To tackle that complex text. So show of hands, how many of your students struggle with reading grade level complex text? As every teacher, right? And we know the bar has been set. They're already expected to be able to engage with complex text, to analyze, infer, your state assessment. There's no easy button. There's no magic Lexile button that lowers the readability or scaffolds for them. Complex text is difficult, but it's a part of everyday life, whether we like it or not. They're going to encounter it. So in the words of literacy researcher and author Tim Shanahan, teachers, we have to think about now, not lowering fences for them, but instead providing them tools to teach them to climb. So what does that look like? I want you to join me on tab 2. Tab 2, and you're going to see that we begin every text with a text complexity rubric on the right-hand side of the page. Those give you the quantitative and qualitative features of the text, but look below it. We go a little step further. We're going to use that rubric to tell you what are some teaching ideas, what are resources, what are learning activators to engage your students before they read. You're going to see some of those resources if you join me on the screen. One that will be called out is our multilingual audio summary. This comes in English, in Spanish. It's got audio features and word-by-word highlighting like this.
Going to the shore on the first morning of the vacation, the young English boy stopped at a turning of the path.
And of course, students can adjust the speed of that as well. Or you might have students that need the bridge text version. This is going to alternate the original authentic text with summary to really help bridge those students into the complex text. Now, note all of our digital texts have features with audio and highlighting, but they also have text help tools, translation tools that we're going to talk a little bit more about. We can translate this into over 100 different languages. On the far right-hand side of your page, you're seeing the work of Dr. Jim Cummins. He is our multilingual expert, where we're going to engage our multilingual students in building backgrounds, developing vocabulary, and really transitioning them into English, an integrated approach for our multilingual students. So once we've started thinking through how we can prepare students to start reading, now we have to empower our students. So to do that, I want you to turn to tab 3 with me. Tab 3. And you're going to see that we prepare them on the left-hand side of the page with a reading strategy. That's going to be their focus for this particular test. Now, I know I have a lot of middle school teachers and coaches in the room that have samples. If you all will do me a favor, the ones that have 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, flip one page back, because we know that middle schoolers are still learning literacy. They're building that literacy knowledge. So one page back for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you're going to see genre anchor charts. You're going to see characteristics, mini lessons to prepare them for reading. All along the way, though, remember, we're teaching our students to climb. So we want them to take ownership of their learning as well. So now do me a favor and just kind of flip through that text selection. And I want you to look in the margins. And as you're doing that, I want to make note here, when you're in your teacher's edition, I'm going to grab one. And I open up here, this square is the exact replica of the student edition. Okay, so you can spend all of your time here. Your student edition is a consumable and it's sitting there. It comes in hardback too, but you can always see what your student's seeing, and then you have your teacher margins here. So what I want you to do is look in the margins of the student text. And I have it up here too. I'm going to zoom in and show you. We want them to monitor their own learning. So we have our comprehension check questions throughout the text. So they're monitoring their thinking. We have consistent routines for close reading, prompts for them to annotate, question the text, learn how to consume it critically. We're also practicing those reading strategies along the way. And now I want you to draw your eyes to the right side or the left side margins. And for the students who need it, point of use differentiated skill support for all learners, right there in the margins. Because here's what we have to recognize. In your classrooms, there is not a one-size-fits-all approach. You have different learners that need different personalized support. So beyond just the teacher's edition, I want to draw your attention to some support for our multilinguals. We talked a little bit about some of those resources ahead of time, but if you'll look in the bottom margins, you're going to see these bluish teal boxes that are labeled multilingual support, and it's scaffolded at substantial, moderate, and light along the way in the bottom margins. Not only that, sometimes our students need support when they're reading independently. When you're not doing that direct teaching, how do we support them? When they're reading digitally independently, they're going to have digital coaching tools. We call it, it's brand new, our language and reading coach. So as students are reading independently, they're going to click right in to this little thought bubble, and up is going to pop support that's kind of helps them hang in there to grapple with complex text, with word parts, with sentence parts, in order to be able to tackle that text. Now, this is just a sneak peek, really, of what that student experience looks like, but I want to show you from the very beginning. You were to assign a digital text to a student. This is what it looks like. Streamlined, clean, everything a student needs. There's not a lot of extraneous things happening here on the page, and it mimics the print. We're going to help them unlock meaning. We're going to focus on that reading strategy, and we're going to show them close reading. It also has all the features for audio. Professional audio, that word-by-word highlighting we saw earlier, they can adjust the speed of that. And it has annotation tools. So as they're reading, they'll highlight and then they'll underline, circle different colors and spaces for them to interact. As we scroll down, remember those notes I showed you in the student margins. It's also in the different, so interactive. There's that reading and language coach. If your students are struggling with the concept vocabulary, these are hyperlinked. So they'll scroll down, they'll click into that vocabulary word, and they'll see and hear that word and the definition of multiple languages. So this really does replicate the print experience, but it's also designed for students to take ownership of their reading. For our multilinguals, we also have that text help feature I kind of teased out a little bit earlier. A student can highlight any portion of a digital text, a word, a phrase, an entire text if they want. And this annotation box pops up, which allows them to change the settings to their native language. Many of them come with audio. There's over 100 for them to choose from. My particular student is French, so they can check the voice speed, change it, and this is what they hear.
Ils auraient un fils et les livres dans leur
And notice it doesn't sound like
Avec ses
a
perspectives
robot,
devant les yeux,
right?
il
It's authentic
accélérera ses pas.
text. Now, to help all students access text, you're going to see embedded UDL features, that universal design. So they can change the font size in 3 different fonts to make it larger. They can also change for visibility, the background color, and then the text color itself to white or yellow. They have 4 or 5 different font types for visual, and then also they can change their icon size. So really features that are allowing all students to access text, no matter the obstacle. So now some of you are thinking, I heard not Google Classroom, but I heard Canvas. We were talking earlier. Anybody else using Canvas in the classroom? This is an important thing for us to talk about because we don't want teachers to do double work, right? Putting in ours, in our platform, working in Canvas, we have a seamless integration with other learning management systems. So essentially your students never leave, let's say, Canvas. They access all of their work there, they complete their assessments there, your grades get synced back there, and you can build courses and share them with others. So it really is a seamless experience for teachers and for students. So when we think about, so far, what you just heard, how we're teaching our students to tackle complex text. Imagine yourself in this classroom with those tools, that scaffolded support, the resources to not just support our multilinguals, but all different levels of learners in your classroom. And I think we can agree, we really are giving our students the tools to teach them to fly. And I want to show you why that is so important. I know you know this as literacy teachers, but this made me gasp when I saw this statistic. In a recent poll, 80% of US families did not buy or read a book last year. And that one is tough. But this 33% of high school grads that were polled never intend to for the rest of their lives. And it made me question my career in education as a teacher. That's heartbreaking. So how can we impact these statistics for your future graduates? Well, beyond just getting them to read the text, because that's what we've been talking about here for 10 minutes, right? Getting them to tackle complex text. If they don't see relevancy in a text, they're never going to open it up to begin reading. So we have to help them see how a text applies to them. One way we're going to do that is by the type of text we put in front of them. So in your unit overview we looked at earlier, you saw the type of text, the new authors that we have in our table of contents. But we also have an extensive print and digital library with hundreds, and I think our number is even over 1,000 titles for you to choose from in both English and Spanish. Not only that, for Tucson, you're going to receive 2 free novels with every student purchase. So I don't do much math, but I would assume if you multiply the number of your students times 2, that's how many novels are available in your classroom for your students as well. So beyond the text, what about resources to engage them? If you would turn to tab 4 for me, tab 4, and you're going to see interactive instruction and resources for your gifted and talented, for your multilinguals, for your exceptional education, for your intervention. And these are all at the front of the units, really giving you the ability to engage students based on their needs. Not only that, I've highlighted some teacher favorites for you here. You can customize your lessons, get your students engaged with our video library. Teachers love it. It's got over 40 contemporary resources of videos to spark interest around the topic in text, YouTube Ed, TED Talk, and more. Any podcast listeners in here? I'm a podcast junkie, yes. I don't know that our students are quite there yet. Like we are, maybe. They are? Okay. I'm a true crime junkie, so you know, I listen to those. But I will say ListenWise has 2 different types of podcasts. This is our partnership with them that gives you current event podcasts. So it's going to be a daily drip of podcasts. Here's one that recently popped up in the feed.
It's been a busy week in the world of artificial intelligence. Google announced plans to roll out new AI tools across email and its other productivity software. And OpenAI unveiled a new version of its chatbot, ChatGPT, that it claims can figure out someone's taxes.
Right? So not only do you have them aligned to the current events, but you also have podcasts aligned to your unit topics, saving you time. And then our favorite teacher feature that we hear the most praise about is Hook and Inspire. You're nodding your head. You know this one, don't you? She already loves it from a different school she taught at. This is the inspiration of one of our authors, Kelly Gallagher. I want you to think of it as like a text-inspired Pinterest board. And I actually want you to hear from him why he created this and how he used it in the classroom.
When I teach a major literary work, I want that unit to be responsive to the kids who are sitting in that class. And so there are certain major works I've taught many, many years in a row, but there's not a single major literary work that I've taught the same way year after year after year. So if I'm planning a unit around this book, I'm looking for ways of intriguing and hooking and inspiring my kids to get into not only the launch of the book, but the actual reading of the book, and then the actual looking back to the book. So sort of that into, through, and beyond approach. I'm sprinkling that unit with what I would call seeds, charts, graphs, maps, songs, art, infographics, statistics, those things that I think will draw my kids into that literary work, keep them engaged into that literary work, and then want to revisit some of the big thinking when they're finished with that literary work.
So I want to give you an example. I love when Kelly talks about it, it's like sprinkling seeds. So let's say you're teaching Romeo and Juliet, right? And we know Shakespeare is difficult for students. Let's say you have some Taylor Swift fans in your class. Anybody have any Swifties? Yes, it's out of control. So let's say you have some Swifties in your class. Engage them by comparing the plot of the play to lyrics from one of her throwback songs, Romeo and Juliet, right? Or maybe you just have some students that need to hear about the play or see it from a different perspective.
And Juliet punches Romeo's back in her heart.
If Juliet didn't kill herself. I mean, really, that should almost be the start of the play.
So we kind of see Juliet in a whole new, stronger way, where she's like,
Or for another text example, let's say you're teaching the necklace, one of mine that I love to teach. You know, desiring a higher social status in 19th century Paris isn't much different than our students wanting status on social media, right? So they would definitely relate to this aspiring social media influencer story.
So back then, when people liked my Instagram posts, I would get really giddy, tingly, and excited. I was that, and I racked up $10,000 of debt trying to become an Instagram influencer.
Now, not only will things like this engage, I know that's sad, it engage our students, but at the same time, it can inspire our students. So think about your students who want to be creators of multimedia like this. Maybe they were inspired by a text you were reading or a lesson you were teaching. New to myPerspectives is the way we support media literacy. You'll have access to Media Studio right within our Savvis Realize platform. So we're teaching our students to become consumers and producers of media. Not only that, they have lessons, they have resources, they have exemplars to do that. So they're getting to share their own perspectives in a different way through a different medium using multimedia. Now, another way we engage them is we ask them their first thoughts, which seems kind of simple. But at the end of a reading, we typically jump into analysis. In myPerspectives, we start with asking students, what do you think is important? What do you think is worthy of talking about in this particular text? Once you launch those types of conversations, now you have discussion prompts that we call sharing perspectives. These are things that get students to connect to their own experiences, to the world around them, to the students around them, to get them to lean in and care. These are actually located right in the Teacher's Edition and Movana portions as well. Now what I want you to do is check out what we do after reading the text. So I want you to turn to tab 5 for me. Tab 5. And on the right side of the page, you're going to see a label that says Build Insight. Notice at the top, we start with those first thoughts. And then as you scan down the page, we're beginning to get students to think critically about the text that they just read after they've given their thoughts. But we also know our standards ask us to dig deeper. right? We need that higher order questioning and thinking that the standards call for, that the state assessments call for. So I want to show you how we align your standards to activities, tasks, questions that your students can learn those skills. So I want you to join me in flipping the page. And on the left-hand side of the page, we're going to start with close reading. If you are looking at a middle school text, you're going to see close reading models, a gradual release of modeling. We're getting them to revisit the text for different purposes. If you're looking at a high school text, notice this is in test prep format. Over on the left, you've got activities level to your depth of knowledge. And at the bottom, now we're working on inquiry and research with some additional project options. Over on the right, now we're looking at literacy skills. We're dissecting elements. So we're going to teach a short lesson. Students are going to practice that. But how many of you would say that not all students are ready for a lesson that you're about to teach? Rather than leaving them behind and coming back, look what we have in the options. For every skill you teach, now you have formative assessment here. You're going to start with a readiness check. That is going to diagnose the level of support that each student needs. Then underneath, you have that scaffolding for differentiated support. Underneath that, finally, you're going to monitor progress. You have a pre-created exit ticket, and notice under that an additional resource for the students who need pre-teaching and practice. All right there. Turn one more page forward. I want to show you now how we study language and craft when we're looking at a text. At the top, there's that direct word instruction for concept vocabulary. In the margins, you're going to see strategies like word walls where they're building vocabulary. Underneath that, we're looking at word study lessons. That formative assessment still lives in the margins. And if you're looking for interactive lessons, you have an entire word study skills center on Savas Realize for that as well. Now, how many of you also like to pull in cross-curricular? Build knowledge with other subject matters. Here's the good news. You may have seen some as you were looking in the bottom margins. You're going to see throughout the text connections. I saw one yesterday to basketball. There's some to mathematics, geometry, sociology, psychology, but definitely to science and social studies. We're building knowledge around these text topics and these unit topics as well. So is anybody wondering, as we're talking about this, do I have to teach everything that you've just mentioned every time I teach a text? Some are like, yes, I am. Okay. Here's the good news. Join me on tab 6. Tab 6. What you're looking at is our lesson overview. And really, it's a flexible framework so you can teach this text your way based on what your students need. So on the left-hand side of the page, you have standards aligned lesson objectives, you have pacing suggestions, and then notice all of the resource options you have to engage different types of learners. This lesson overview is set up the same way digitally as you're seeing in print. Notice these icons here. This is going to direct you to where you can find these digital resources. So I want to show you how this matches up. So you can see teaching digitally is just as easy as teaching in your print resources. So I'm going to take you to Savas Realize. This is a teacher account. Notice I'm on the home screen no matter what grade you're teaching. From the home screen, you can browse by category, you can browse by keyword or resource. And then as we scroll down, you're going to see those featured resources that were on tab 4, Book and Inspire, podcast, videos. Here in a digital library for back to school, you're also going to have authentic Spanish digital text for your students as well. But as a user of myPerspectives, you're probably going to live mainly on the left side of the screen in your table of contents. And when you click into that, you're going to see it's organized just like the print. It's that gradual release of the unit designs. So you'll click in, you'll choose the text that you're teaching. And now what I want you to see is that this is an exact replica of what you're looking at on tab 6. You have your lesson objectives, you have a summary, you have your standards at point of use, and then all of the labeling is the exact same as the print, and the icons are the same. So you can easily, quickly pick and choose what your students need as you teach this lesson. You even have your assessments that live down here on the bottom as well. Now, one of the things that teachers ask us a lot about is, how do I teach from your platform? How easy is that? Does anybody use like PowerPoint or Google Slides or anything, and you're creating them yourselves, right? Here's something teachers ask for, and we're so happy to be able to provide in our newest edition. If you were to click into any of these resources here, I'm going to click into the student text itself. It's going to open up what we call a lesson viewer with a slide sorter. So it looks a lot like PowerPoint or Google Slides. So over on the left, you have all of those lesson resources we just looked at. Here on our main stage is the content of that particular slide. Just like PowerPoint or Google Slides, you can customize this. You can move resources around, you can hide them, you can even add in your own content and create a new slide. So essentially, you've just created a custom presentation based on the text for what your students need. Then you'll come up to the top right corner, you'll click present. Your students see what's behind it, but you get that presenter view. So you see everything that you would need to teach this particular text. And all of these that are listed here are the things that were in your print teacher's edition in the margin. So you don't lose that either. If you wanted to print this, you'll go up to the Apple, it'll pop up in PDF format, and then all you'll do is come up to your printer icon and you'll print everything in PDF. So simple to use for both teachers and students. And really, we want you to think about that statistic that I started with a few minutes ago. With the resources, right, that you have to activate or engage your students, customize your lessons, myPerspectives really can help us change those statistics for our future graduates. Okay, I'm going to show you a disturbing image. Are you ready? How do you feel when you see this stack of grading?
Yes.
At your desk right now.
Yes,
How do you feel about that though? There aren't even words for it, is what I'm seeing right now, right? Angst, overwhelming. I always thought, there goes my evening, right? Whatever it was. This stack of paper represents the grading that literature teachers have to do, for sure, ELA teachers. But we also know the only way for our students to get better at writing, our own author says, is by getting kids to write. So that's going to make our stack bigger. But I have a challenge for you. What if when you got that stack, the ideas were better defended? It was better organized. They actually used a punctuation mark. It takes less time. That's right. It takes less time grading. So it kind of changes the way we view that grading experience. So the question is, how can we impact the quality of the writing before it gets to you? I want you to join me as we enter a myPerspectives classroom where they're going to do daily writing, becoming better writers by writing in various formats. So they'll do the quick writes around those essential questions at the beginning of the unit. They'll engage in evidence log, grabbing text evidence and gaining insight. They're going to have strategies where they're building vocabulary with word walls and using that in their reading, their writing, their discussions. And of course, they're going to be writing to sources, text-based writing prompts that are asking them to connect their reading, their writing, and their vocabulary. Now, all of this daily writing means what's happening to our stack. It's growing, right? It's getting bigger. Your desk is becoming less visible, right? So it's growing. But remember, we want to show you how we can empower students to impact the quality of that. So to do that, they first need STEM. And we want to teach them that through that daily writing. So join me on tab 7. Tab 7. And you're going to see in the center of the unit, we teach students how to write using a particular mode of writing. And this isn't at the end of the unit and disconnected to the reading. It's in the center, connected to what students are reading. You can do this as a performance task, as an extended teaching task. But not only that, flip one page over, you're going to see the support that we have for your students in a new writer's handbook inspired by Kelly. So think about every time you assign a writing prompt, what are some of the things you hear from your students besides the size and the highlights? How many sentences? Yes. I would hear like, can you help me get started? Right? Those are things that I would hear. I think these are 3 questions I've probably heard the most. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to fix it. And can you give me an example? This is what the Writer's Handbook does. It answers those questions for your students so that they can focus in on taking ownership of their writing. So if you flip the page, you're going to see when they're drafting and they say, I don't know where to start, they're going to start with the mentor text. It's right there with examples and it's annotated for them. If you flip one more page, when they say, I see what I did wrong, but I don't know how to fix it. Not only do we have detailed revision checklists for peer-to-peer feedback, for independent review, you're going to see in the right-hand column, actionable feedback for students to correct their own work. Turn one more page for me. My favorite is, can you give me an example? How many of you feel like your example bank is dry? That I can't give you another one, right? Start using student examples. You start pulling from the internet, looking for things. Here's the good news. With the Writer's Handbook, the mentor text and the grammar mini lessons serve as those examples for your students. So they already have everything they need to work through that writing and become more effective writers. Now, if you like to use a more interactive experience while you're teaching writing, you do have digital skill centers for writing and for grammar, and they allow you to assign them individually or use them as a teaching tool. You'll see interactive lessons, video tutorials. There are even some in there from Kelly Gallagher himself, teaching your students components of writing. You have editable PowerPoints, interactive smartboard lessons, and then replicate all of that again for grammar, including practice pages. Now, I want to talk for a second about grammar. We were chatting about grammar earlier. You know that's one of your students' biggest struggles. And no matter how much you grade, it's probably the biggest time sucker from your grading too, right? So I'm going to show you that with myPerspectives, grammar isn't an afterthought. Like much of what we do, it's connected to the reading. So in this example, we're teaching pronoun antecedent agreement. This isn't random. This is mimicking the author's style of the text they read. So we're going to learn about that. We're going to go back to the text and find examples, and we're going to replicate it in our writing. And then don't forget, teachers, in your margins, you have that formative assessment. So there's your readiness check, your differentiated skills support, and then your monitoring, adjusting with exit tickets. For those students who need even more, this is where your Grammar Plus workbook comes in. And you actually have samples in your bag as well. These are practice pages aligned to grammar, mechanics, and usage. Each practice page has a writing and speaking application as well. It comes in digital format or in a consumable format, so you don't have to make copies. So I want to go back to that stack. When we look at this stack now, right, we've improved the quality of the writing for students, but in all honesty, when you're grading, there's over 100 of them and there's only one of you. So wouldn't it be nice to have a personal writing assistant for each student? We're going to give you that. We're going to give you Turnitin's revision assistant. And this is that reliable feedback for students. And here's the way it works. As a teacher, you'll go into your Realize account and you will choose a prompt for your students. And it's differentiated prompts by skill level. You can choose by cross-curricular. You can also choose to focus on that writing mode that you're teaching for the unit. So you can click in that way. If you're focusing on source-based writing, you can even choose that. Each prompt is going to give a different type of feedback. And it's a gradual release. It goes from the sentence level feedback with grammar and mechanics to a more holistic feedback. And then you have some with no feedback that you can use as benchmarks. At the top, remember I told you, you do not have to create any more examples. With Revision Assistant, for each prompt, you have Revision Assistant exemplars. There will be 4 for each prompt at different proficiency levels. So you can really use these for teaching tools with your students as well. Once you assign it to your students, this is their experience. They'll click right in from Realize or from Canvas. Sorry, let me go back here. And that experience will start with pre-writing. It'll start with pre-writing. So they'll start that initial writing. They'll get overview feedback of the type of feedback they get. And we use color-coded Wi-Fi signals in Revision Assistant. Once they get that clear indicator of what their feedback's going to look like, then they'll either copy and paste or type that essay in with all of their errors. And then they're going to choose to get a signal check. Now, once they choose signal check, that's where that reliable artificial intelligence kicks in, and students will receive that sentence level feedback. And notice it's color coded. So they'll learn, when they click into the pink, this is all about language and style. It will highlight their errors. It will tell them those things that they need to correct. And then they'll go back into that essay and make changes right within the essay itself. Teachers see every draft, every change, every edit. So they're a part of that process along with their students the whole time. We can click into green and see organization. When they feel like they're ready to finally submit, the last thing they'll do is do a proofread. This activates that last step of that writing process. Grammar, mechanics, usage, it will highlight their errors, it will categorize it for them. Over on the right, it'll tell them what they did wrong with a generic example, and then they take ownership to go and fix it. So it really is like having a personal writing assistant for each student. Not only that, Turnitin gives you an added bonus. You do get their plagiarism checker, SIM check, along with that. I hope you don't need it, but the reality is you probably do. Not only will it run against the internet database, but new to Turnitin this year, it also detects that auto-generated essay that comes from ChatGPT as well. So very handy tool. So I'm going to go back to that stack, right? As we're thinking about the stack of papers, we've improved the quality. You've got a personal writing assistant for each student. And really, we are now improving our students' writing to be effective communicators. Okay, my last little time, I'm going to ask you one last question. If you could think of one thing you need more of as a teacher, what would it be? Don't say money, because right.
Too many kids, at least in this area, are coming in undergrade level, way undergrade level of reading.
More scaffolding. Anybody else? One more thing as a teacher. More meetings? No, more emails, more assessments. Time. Yeah, more time. Listen, I've heard a lot of things scaffolding is a good answer. I've heard some crazy things in the presentations, but time is probably the #1 answer. So how many of you would say you consistently leave school before dark? No, you're here right now and it's about to be dark, right? If you do, you have your teacher bag full of grading to do. So I want to show you how myPerspectives saves you time in our last few minutes together. First thing, remember those personalized features for your students to support their learning. Text help, bridge text, multilingual learner support. So this is not you creating them on your own. So that's giving you, let's say, help. We also want to think about those multimedia resources. Book and Inspire, videos, podcasts, so you're not searching Google during your planning time. So that's going to give you another. And then we can't forget about the digital tools we just saw for writing. That's going to improve the grading time for you. Cut some of that out. That'll give you another out. But you also have things that you're doing all along the way to save you time with myPerspectives. Remember your teacher margins. Remember those formative assessments. But how about this? For middle school students, what if you knew their learning gaps on day 1 of each school year? Would that save you time? Mm-hmm. What if you had instructional recommendations to close the gaps for them on day 1? Yeah, I'm seeing some bigger head nods. This is our literacy screener and diagnostic. For your middle school students, this will rapidly screen them and point them to the right diagnostic, and then assess their reading skills, their comprehension, and their vocabulary. So then on day 1, you're in the know. For Eric here, you know what his performance is in relation to his peers. You also see his areas of improvement, his literacy strengths, his stretch goals. But not only that, with that data, you know what to do because you also have resources that are targeted to close the gaps for him. So that starts the year. And then I mentioned to remember your margins. Daily, you're diagnosing, you're differentiating, you're formally assessing your students for the skills you're teaching. We've created exit tickets for you to do that in different formats. These are going to come in PowerPoint that you can edit. But not only that, if you want instant data, they're going to come digitally so that you'll know exactly what to do next with your students. When we think about assessments, They're already created for you. For our multilingual students, one of those is a formative assessment at the beginning of each unit for reading, writing, speaking, and listening. This will diagnose what type of support your students need throughout the unit, and then you'll be directed in your margins for light, moderate, or substantial support. Those assessments that are already created, you have them for text, you have them for unit, they're all standards aligned for writing. Not only that, they're flexible, print, digital, customizable, online. You have benchmark assessments. Everything you think you might need would come with this program, including test prep that's customizable and things as well. If you give anything digitally, there are some benefits. Number one, they're gaining confidence in that test snap format for their state assessments. But anything that's taken digitally, besides writing, is auto-graded. So that's saving teachers time, and then it gives you incredible data. So let's say you've given an assessment to your students. You didn't grade it, it did, right? Realize did, so you see those percentages, but you're gonna need to dig in. So if you come up to the top and click view data, now you're gonna get a plethora of information based on student mastery. So standards alignment, color-coded green and red, what they mastered and didn't. You can click into question analysis that will help you really determine, let's say the red question, what are those misconceptions that your students had? You could click into student analysis, but another teacher feature favorite is performance analysis. If you assign an assessment, you can come in and filter to a standard, set your own proficiency level, and you'll get instant access to knowledge. Who scored more, who scored less, and it will align you to resources to reteach or extend learning. Now, some of that data might also point you to the direction of students that need more intensive intervention. For those middle school students, we do have Success Maker reading. This is an adaptive, personalized approach for learning. So every time a student gets into that program, it's adjusting for those that need intervention, but also for any student that would need additional support. You're also going to see that not only does it do that, but everybody's making gains, whether it's phonemic awareness, if we have to go that far down, vocabulary, comprehension, and you're getting data, teachers. You'll see how they did that day. You'll see, are they working towards their growth goal? And if they're not, targeted resources to close the gaps. So that really will give you time back for the most important part of your day, time in front of your classroom with your students. A partnership with Savvis means that you are partnering with us for both teachers and families. And I want to say Jane will come up with a personalized approach for PD training for your teachers if you choose Savvis. Day one implementation, getting teachers ready in print and digital. We come back for ongoing support, webinars, tutorials. We can do this in any environment you choose, virtual, on-site, or blended. And for the teacher that has the burning question when they are working till 7 p.m., My Savvis training has 24/7 access. For families, we want to help you partner with them as well. Home connection letters to invite them into the learning every unit. And they also have their own website called Parents Corner. This will allow them to get digital help, tips for parents that are helping students learn at home, and our digital user guide is in multiple languages as well. So today you've heard a lot in a short amount of time. So we want to remember that the whole goal in using myPerspectives is to create those critical readers and thinkers, consumers of text, and effective communicators. And if you can do that, you've taught them more than a skill or standard, you've created future leaders out in the workforce, right? So with myPerspectives, you've seen the tools, the resources, the scaffolds that you need in order to do that. So I'm just going to say myPerspectives in you in your district in Tucson. Let's see what we can do together. We know you have a difficult decision to make. Jane, I'm going to invite you back up, but I'm going to be bold and say, choose us, choose myPerspectives. We want to partner with you, not just with the program, with professional learning as well. Jane mentioned the review site with the QR code on the front. For any further review you're wanting to do, this is what that website looks like. So you can kind of scroll down at your own pace, hear about some of the things we've been talking about. There's a table of contents, that novel brochure, a digital walkthrough and demo, more about our media studio, and samples. So if you want to do your own walkthrough of that print teacher's edition, this walkthrough guide will send you to page numbers with guiding questions to help you with that as well. Your grammar workbook and a digital demo. I want to speak just for a second, Jane, before you hop in about the digital demo. You actually have two different demos on here. So I want to share why this is. The top one is our 2025, which is everything you just heard about. That new digital experience with the slide sorter. This is going to give you a sneak peek of a grade 7 and a grade 9. If you have teachers who say, I really want to see it at my grade level, we're going to give you our 2022 credentials. The framework is the same, lots of the same resources, but our 2025 is more streamlined and more user-friendly features for teachers as well. So you have a choice there. So Jane, I'm going to give it back to you.
Thank you. I can listen to you all day. I love the way you present. So thank you so much. Well, first of all, I apologize. I had the goodie bags on there for you guys to open up and eat during the presentation. So take them home now. There's some snacks in there for you. So please help yourself. I do want to talk a little bit about the logistics. Amber did such a great job of explaining the program, but I do know that, you know, when I'm at these presentations, a lot of people are wondering, okay, so you said the book is a consumable, and the answer is yes. And do we have to purchase every year? And the answer is no. So the way it works is for the life of the adoption, once you have purchased year 1 consumables, they automatically get delivered for years 2 through 5 or however long the adoption is. So there is no additional charge for any books unless you have student growth, obviously. So that's important, point number 1. And then the books do also come in hardback. So we do offer them in hardback. But you know, Amber showed you how powerful it is for kids to be able to close read and circle and draw, and so consumables are my favorite. But we need to make sure you know that they are available in both forms. She also talked about novels and novel choices, and I had some really good conversations over here with some folks in regards to, well, how does the novels work? How do they work? You know, are they on the approved district list? And I'm assuming that, you know, it is different in every district, but from my experience, when I'm working with other districts and they purchase a program, there is a novel process. So I'm going to make an assumption, and I've got some head bobs back there from the district folks, that there is a novel process, and that will be determined once you've made an adoption purchase. But just know that we have an extensive list of over 1,000 novels that are in print and digital. I'll go ahead and pass this around. You can see it in print, but it is also on your review site. So if you want to see what those novels are, but we do offer novels that you can assign digitally and the kids can read them. It's really exciting because the kid just wants to, you know, extra reading. They can go home and read these novels that are online. So it's really exciting. So I did want to point that out. The fun part too that I don't want to forget is that we do have some novels on the table, and they are for yours to take home. So don't fight. But there are novels spread out all over the table. So if you'd like to take a few home, we have plenty. They make really good Christmas presents as well. So help yourself. Let's see. I wanted to talk a little bit about the digital platform. She showed a lot of resources today, and I do want to make sure you understand that, you know, if you purchase myPerspectives, we're not just going to throw the program at you and run away. We will provide some type of training in regards to year 1 through the life of the adoption. I have put together a plan, a sample plan. It does show all of the types of PD that we do offer, but we've been doing this for a while and working with lots of districts. Some of the users for myPerspectives, just off the top of my head, the Chandler Unified School District is using this. Scottsdale is using it. My daughter attends Scottsdale, so she's using the program right now, and I have some fun things to talk about there too. But Gilbert, Peoria just adopted this year, Glendale, Phoenix Union, Douglas, some of these districts may be familiar to you. Catalina Foothills is using it, Tempe, Roosevelt, and then some of the ones that are bigger and they're, you know, outside of Arizona, ELA is using it, Clark County is using it, Albuquerque and Las Cruces. So that's just a few. I mean, the list is endless. I could have had a scrolling slide for you, but I spared you. So again, just know that it is a program that is well received in other districts. One of the things that I did want to share with you is the experience as a parent. Like I said, I've been working for the company for a while, and I go out and I talk about these programs all the time from the lens of my company as a sales rep, right? So during COVID, we all know what happened. We all went into hiding, and we had, if you had kids that age, they were online. And some learned and some struggled. And I was just so ecstatic to be able to watch my kid bloom during COVID. And I don't know how many kids can say that because of this program. I was able to sit back behind her, you know, she was online, and I was able to peek in and see her on her platform, her digital platform, and answer these questions or write an essay and have it graded, or just have, you know, take an assessment, and then it grades it right there, and a green check mark comes on, and she's like, yes. She was also in a math program, so she learned math on her own through Realize. It's one of the most powerful programs digitally that I've ever seen, and the parent help and all of that. I was able to teach her. I was able to literally see what she did in class and look at it and help them through it. So I can't stress enough, it is one of my favorite pieces of the program. Please, I encourage you, the digital access is on a flyer in your folder. I did print it because I think it's super important for you to take a look at all the digital resources on the left-hand side. And Amber showed you the credentials on the website as well. So please take a look. I'm not going to go through the folder. There's, like I said, Hook and Inspire flyers and all kinds of fun stuff for you to take a look at in there, but I won't go through the whole thing for you. Let's see, I covered that. 9, number 10. Oh, my favorite part of the whole program, the presentation. The wows. What, if you would just humor me for a little bit. Well, let me pause for a minute. I promised to make sure that there was time for questions, and then we can have some fun with the wows. Are there any questions? Yes.
Oh, I've got a list of them.
Okay, well, let's go.
The first one is, I want to clarify. I have students, or I had a lot of students last year who tried to pawn off AI written essays. Was I correct in hearing that if they do an AI essay, they can't paste it into this program and get away with it?
Well, they can paste it, but they won't get away with it. Turn it in. There's some check plagiarism. They updated when ChatGPT came out as well, and updated their technology. So as our third-party partner can turn it in, so it will detect those auto-generated essays through ChatGPT.
Oh, good. I caught them because they were all in the same format and the paragraph began the same. So it was not fun. The next question is, when you're integrating with other subject matters, can you integrate with math? Yeah. I did not see math up there.
Yeah. So we have math. There's one in there for geometry. It depends on the text, right? So whatever that text topic is, but there's all types of cross-curricular connections in the bottom.
I saw that.
And you know what? I know she mentioned this, but I just want to mention it one more time because this is the top favorite. Usually people are like, oh my gosh. How many of you have a unit that you just love and you're looking at our program, but you're like, I'm still going to do this unit because I love it. Like, I don't know, a poetry unit or something that you really love. I'm sure that you guys have file cabinets full. With our platform, you can upload, and she talked about, she has a little file cabinet out there I saw, but with our platform, you can upload anything that you want and add it to our platform and assign it out or teach them. So if you have a math unit or a science unit or just something that you're in love with, you can add it. It's called a playlist, and I remember her mentioning this, but you create your own playlist, and that's what's so fun about our program. It's super customized. Let's keep them coming. These are great questions.
The next one is, you talked a lot about the audio, but we have, at least at my school, we have a lot of lazy readers. And so I would want to restrict that ability for them to be able to listen to it and just give it to certain students, so that the other students would actually have to read and annotate, because that's going to build their skills more than listening to something.
So we can't turn off the audio. We can turn off the word by word highlighting. We can't turn off the audio for accessibility reasons. So every digital text has it. You know, they can certainly read it in print. What they don't have is it read to them on assessments. So you know, you can add things to read assessment questions, but it doesn't on the assessment solving. So that's why we didn't make that, right? On their assessment, they wouldn't have that option.
Okay, and then does it save the annotations from one day to the next? So if they're annotating, they don't get done, and then they need to go back. Is it going to be something they're going to be able to reference?
Yeah, so as long as you assign it, right? So if they just go into their digital text and they start making notes, it doesn't assign it because you don't ever get to see that. There's no connection digitally. So once you assign that text and they do anything in the text, you can see it at any point in real time, even before they submit that assignment.
Great. And the last question is, can a teacher monitor student progress as they're going?
Yeah, so part of that is that formative assessment and margins.
Right, not the what did you call it? Not the success maker reading, not that. I want to know if I'm teaching standard ELA, where my students are progressively, because I do reading intervention. So I teach kids that are reading from K to 5, and they're supposed to be reading at 6th grade. Most of them are reading at 3rd grade. A lot of these kids then have to go to regular ELA. And I want to know how they're progressing there.
So we have benchmark assessments for that, right? So, well, first of all, you teach middle school. So one of the tools that you would want to use is our literacy screening diagnostics. So that's going to tell you that starting point for them. And then our benchmark assessments throughout the year will tell you what that mastery looks like in standards. But keep in mind, you've got that data every assessment you assign them. So you're seeing their growth in assessment mastery throughout the year as well.
Is that literacy diagnostic screening available for high school?
It's not. It's middle school only right now.
But you know what I love about that, what you just said, is because of people keep asking for stuff, we keep making changes. The playlist that we haven't realized is new within the last maybe 2 years. The integration with Google Classroom. There's all these new features that are coming because of the request by teachers. So keep them coming.
I was gonna say we did it for math coming out this year. So there's a good chance we'll develop it for high school. It'll probably over the next 2 years, but I can't promise anything, but we're getting in more for math. We work with ELA, so we built a math one that we just started selling this one.
Yeah, okay, back to the analytics. I want to know if you have functions in place that allow for the teacher to see where students are spending an ample amount of time in one area, and then if there a flagging system that shows slow progress or no progress, yellow, red type of thing. Do you have any of those kinds of functions in place?
Yes, so you'll see usage, right? So you can see, you know, how much time a student is spending. So that's part of the analytics. But you're also going to see, let's talk standards analysis, right? So you'll be able to look at their standards mastery across the year. And so when every time they're assessed on a particular standard, you'll see the number of times that they were assessed, and you'll see the dates they were assessed, and whether they're moving towards that mastery or not, all color coded. As far as like, are they spending more time in you know, this paragraph versus this activity, right. No, that you won't have that detail capability, but you will across resources.
So we don't really have in the moment statistics to drop when we have static statistics to drop them. Thank
you. So you said that at each grade level there's 2 units or 2 novels, print novels that they have access to, but do they have access to like digital novels?
Oh,
in addition to those 2?
Yes, let me clarify that too. So what we're proposing for TUSD is that with the purchase of myPerspectives student books, we're providing 2 novels per teacher's choices. So for example, the Chandler Unified School District decided that let's pretend it was 20,000 novels. I don't know what the number was. Then they all got together as a committee and they picked and chose which novels they wanted to. So that's what we're proposing. But the novel choices are endless in that book. And then they are also, you'll see, I don't know, do you have the?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you keep flipping, you're going to see a table in there that actually tells you which novels are available in print, which novels are available digitally, and which novels are available in both print and digital. So, does that answer your question?
Sort of. So we select, whatever novel in print, right? But will we have access to different novels digitally?
Yes,
or is it
correct.
just what you
Yeah, so I always say that's the smart choice. So
Yeah.
like what you pick for print, you might want to cross-check with what you have digitally, so you have access to even more novels for the students.
Thank you.
Do you have any lessons or any discussion questions to those books?
Yeah, it'll tell you in there as far as like which ones come with novel guides. Any of the texts that we recommend that fit with a unit, you'll actually find it on tab 4. There's like a book club section call out. Any of those are going to have reading guides that go with them. Many of our digital novels also have lesson plans that come with them, reading guides, and assessments as well.
Did someone online have a question?
We do. So it's Jackie. Hello. And I know we're getting close to time, but there were a couple of questions asked. Can you guys hear me okay? So I think the first one may have been kind of already answered. It says, is it possible to purchase limited print, not full student count, for dual access and mostly digital?
Dual access and mostly digital.
Yes.
I guess I would need more clarification on dual access. What is it that you mean?
So, and maybe this kind of goes, the second question may kind of go with it. It says, once purchased digital copies, if there are new additions, will the purchase be included in the upgrades for a certain number of years? That might be different. Carrie, if you can re-ask your first question, or maybe it's already been answered. And then there's another question. Are there teacher testimonials?
I'm sure we can get
some
teacher testimonials. Absolutely.
Okay, and that may be something that we'll ask for in the best and final. So be on the lookout for that. And then the last part is a two-part question. It says, how do you evaluate the satisfaction after a district has adopted this curriculum? And then are there follow-up post-implementation customer surveys for us to review from multiple stakeholder perspectives?
Okay, so I'm going to address the first question, and I probably need you to repeat the second. But
okay,
the first question has to do with the PD that is offered through the program. We have what's called capacity building professional development that we offer. And so, it's a realm of things that we can provide. We can provide coaching and modeling. We could provide on-site training, job embedded. It's just a whole list of professional development. So, we can sit down and talk about those things, but I have provided a document. Oops, I didn't pass it around. Go ahead and do that. A document in regards to what we offer. I need a repeat of the second question because I don't think I understood it.
Okay, so the second part of it says, are there follow-up post-implementation customer surveys for us to review from multiple stakeholder perspectives? So I'm thinking once you guys have implemented, the new curriculum, are there any districts that may have done like a post-implementation survey or, perspectives, kind of that what went great, what went bad type of thing is what I think Carrie's getting at.
Well, I'm thinking that we could provide that. I don't have offhand. I know we have not requested that as a company. We have not done that, but only because we work in partnership with the districts that we're working with. And if things aren't going well, we make sure we're in there to provide that professional development. But if you would like that, absolutely, go ahead and send me an email and we can provide that. We'll find some districts that are really happy with our program.
Okay, and it may be something that is again asked for in the best and final. Okay. And I don't have any clarification on that first question as of yet. So again, might be something you see in the best and final.
Perfect. I look forward to it, Jackie.
Thank you.
Well, you guys have been a delight, and like Amber said, I hope we're back to deliver some professional development and we see your lovely faces again. Does anybody, while we're packing up, please remember that everything in the room is for yours to keep. If you want some extra bags, please take them. Micah has an extra 7th grade back there. Please, please, please help yourself. And as we're packing up, does anybody have a wow that they'd like to share? I do have a little incentive for you to share. Okay, I've got one here first.
Two.
Okay.
One is that so many times, at least with our current adoption, which is older than most of our teachers, their first thoughts are all the "Did you read it?" questions. They're all level 1 questions. Just here's the man in the red hat. Did you see the bird? There are those kinds of questions, and these aren't. So I like that because it's actually getting them thinking. And then that you have the graphic novel version of the Odyssey.
We also have it available too.
Yeah.
Anybody that's
Choose your fun. Choose your fun. Yes, please share. Thank you.
So I liked the help and learn supports. I like the layout of the units, how you at the intro you're able to build that background for students, that it has whole group, small group, and independent works, gradual release. Loved the hook and inspire, and then the daily writing opportunities.
Wow, thank you. That was thorough. I appreciate it. And I think you're next. You had your hand raised. Thank you. Choose your fun. I would love it. Thank you.
I like the personalized writing coaching for the students, because as teachers, you can't be everywhere at once. And yet when you're in a writing mode, you always have miss coming from all around you. So doing this like right. And so this kind of helps to negate sharing.
Anybody else?
I can see the success maker reading, that assessment. In middle school, we're using iReady a lot. iReady reading, and it does a diagnostic and it does everything that you talked about. So seeing that being able to tie into the ELA curriculum instead of living in a land of its own is something that's very attractive to me, because then I can actually work with the students in their actual lessons as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel every week when she changes her lessons.
I love that. Amber, you did such a good job. They're listening. Thank you.
I appreciate how your model integrates students' ability to see themselves in the literature. And that was something when I was reviewing this, I spent hours reviewing 6th through 12th grade. To see the learning progression, to see the representation, and to stream throughout all the grade levels. Because when you do that stat up there, how they don't want to listen. But I'm thinking they will look at TikTok because it connects to them. So if you can give them access and visibility in their identities, I think that's a good.
Thank you for sharing that. I got chills. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Anybody else? And if you don't feel like you want to share and you just want to leave your sheet, I would love to read them. We love to hear from you guys. So thank you so much.
Jane.
Great. Yeah.
It's Jackie again. So we had some clarification on that first question.
Okay.
So what she's kind of asking is it required to purchase full print editions for all of the districts so I'm guessing the 6 through 12, versus purchasing some of the copies in print and then have full access to digital. So like if 50% of the schools wanted hard copies, but the rest wanted digital access, is that possible?
There is. There's all kinds of different packages. I've had districts.
I'm going to clarify that a little more. The reason I was asking is, like, let's say that the district didn't want to purchase 100% print copies, and let's say that each school wants some print access, but not full print. So, like, you have students who do better digitally and like storage wise, and the future of textbooks is going more digital, but that we would have like 20% or 25% available for each site. did
Absolutely.
print and then 75% digital. So that's more what I mean.
Absolutely. So if the district came and said, hey, you know, we've got 14 schools that want to do it this model, and we've got the other schools that, you know, want to do it this way, we do whatever they want. We have all different types of bundles. So absolutely, we have schools using 100% digital. We have schools that are using workbooks, no digital, but it automatically comes with a digital access. So if they wanted to go 100% digital and not do the textbook at some sites, we have a variety of different models. So for sure, we could do that. Does that answer it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kristen.
And I just have one question. Although you didn't highlight it tonight, I don't think. I'm assuming that there's district data as well as
Yes.
teacher data. Okay.
Yeah. So
I know all these curriculum programs have fabulous teacher reports, which is what they need to have, because the most important people have that report. But at a district level,
you have access as well, and we just updated our admin reports as well to be even more user friendly. So yes, that same type of data across district and buildings.
And if you wanted additional information, I can get it to you, Heidi. But it could go as detailed as you want. You could go, you know, site by site. You could go to drill down to what teacher's doing what and who's using the program and how their scores are. All kinds of data, lots of it.